Welcome to Mountain Man Explore the Truth. How's everybody doing today or tonight, depending where you're listening to this podcast? I really appreciate you all coming on listening to my podcast. Hopefully, there'll be more to join on and follow. So please go to Spotify or any app that I'm available on and rate, follow, share with your friends, share with your family, share with anyone. I don't care, just do it. That'd be awesome to bring me up to the top and get people to see and be interested in coming on. So if you had an encounter, please email me at mountainmanett@gmail.com. Again, mountainmanett@gmail.com. Or you can find me on Facebook, Blake Botel, Botel, Blake Botel, Botel. So find me on there and private message me and we'll have a chat. I have more encounters coming on. Today we're going to bring on Matt to talk about his dog encounter. So he'll be coming up here shortly. I just wanted to touch base with y'all and let you know that I have more setup coming up, and it's exciting, and it may not be too exciting for these people who had these encounters. But we need to know and get the truth out there and all these cryptid and paranormal weird things that are going on. Sure seems to be a lot more sightings going on, or they've always been going on and just people have been quiet about it. So we're trying to make a safe place for them to come on and talk about it. So I started a group page on Facebook too, Mountain Man Explore the Truth group. So please go on there and check it out and join in. You're welcome to come in there and share anything you want. So my whole idea with my podcast is to make it a safe place and a comfortable place for people to talk about their encounters. Yes, there's other podcasters doing the same thing. But what I'm going to do differently with mine is keep it kind of raw, basically just natural, and let them tell them their encounter. I don't want to do too extreme editing. All I'm going to edit is clean up the volume and the talking a little bit. That's it. I'm not going to really try to cut anything out that you say unless you want me to. So I just want to tell everybody out there I'm trying to do it differently than others. I'm not trying to be a copycat, because I know a lot of people say they're a copycat to other podcasters. You know what? It's not meant for one person or a couple of co-hosts. Excuse me. So it's meant for anybody who's into podcasting and want to get out there and share people's stories that are true. So with that said, we're all in this together. So let's explore the truth together. So we'll be bringing on Matt here shortly. Bear with me. Thank you. Today we're welcoming on Matt. Matt, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Blake.
No problem.
Listen to your show. I think you do a really good job. A lot of people are starting to talk about you a lot.
I appreciate that. That's awesome. Well, Matt, what you want to get into your Dogman encounter, correct?
Yeah. So taking you back a little ways into 89, 90 time, summer, school lets out. I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, and Youngstown, Ohio is a very old steel town. Was one of the biggest makers of American steel, in the 1930s and 40s before the steel industry bottom dropped out. Um, but if you Google, I tell everybody this too. If you want to get a little idea of where this happened and want a little overhead view, you could go to Google and Google Youngstown, Ohio steel mills, and it will show you there is a active steel mill. If you're looking at an overhead view of Youngstown to the far right, it's like a newer one and everything, and they still utilize the railroad tracks that go through the old steel mills, which is important to the story down the road. But there is a massive part of that area down there in the downtown area of just old, rusted out, just like all the other pictures across America and the unfortunate old, strong steel booming towns that, were really affected when that happened, that the bottom fell out in the steel industry. And um, so a lot of dilapidated buildings, rusting out like hulks of like just machinery and stuff. It's really was really cool to us. Very very urban where I grew up. I grew up in the city in Youngstown, and the surrounding areas you can get in the suburbs and stuff that you can get to very out there wooded areas, not too hard. So um, definitely a lot of areas that connect to that downtown area. Like there's a big, I believe it's a state park. It's called Mill Creek Park, which you could get an idea of what that looks like by Googling that as well. And
Okay.
what is is connected between Mill Creek Park and this experience downtown is it's called the Mahoning River. It's a body of water that goes through the city and through the other, suburbs and surrounding areas. And that river actually goes through Mill Creek Park and it goes, and follows downtown through the steel mill. So, I have a belief, and my friends had a belief. We lost some of them over the years, unfortunately, but we always talked about we believe that this thing that we have an experience with followed the river down through this Mill Creek Park, which is a huge park and tons of wooded areas and caves and things you could hide animals down there. Obviously, that's just what we thought. So what happened was is it was June of that summer, really hot. We would get 90, 100-degree weather, 100% humidity in Youngstown on certain days in the summer, super uncomfortable. It was a really hot day. And what we would do is one of my buddies who's no longer with us, he actually lives across downtown from the steel mills. And what you had is like on his house, you had a street that went in front of his house, and then beyond that was a fence, and then the highway, and then across the highway, you could get into different buildings and into this old steel mill downtown Youngstown, which me and my friends, we went everywhere, not just our friend's house and to the park and stuff. We went all over. It was a rough place when I was growing up in that time. There was a lot of gang stuff going on. Youngstown, unfortunately, was well known during that time because of gang violence, and they called Youngstown Murder Town, USA during that time. And
Oh, wow.
a lot of shootings going on, a lot of gang war, Bloods and the Crips, even here in Youngstown, and it affected everywhere. A lot of killings. So what that did is me and my friends, when we would go down to the steel mills, and we'd love to go down there and investigate and see what boys do. You're a guy, and you and your friends get together. You guys go and go on whatever you know quote unquote adventure or something. And we went down there and checked out this just massive area of old steel mill machines, railroad uh, cars. I mean, just a huge facility down there that went on for miles and miles, and most of it, like I said, rusting out, just like memories of what it used to be.
Oh, wow.
So we go down there and we would go to different buildings and look at stuff, but we always brought guns with us. Number one, like I just said, there was a lot of gang stuff going on. You never knew who you'd run down down there. Most people don't go down there, wouldn't go down there when we were going down there because there's really no other reason. It's an old, closed up steel mill facility. Maybe some nefarious things going on. The mafia used to be big, for a while here. So people would police would find bodies down there. So you never know what you're going to run into. What we carried guns for specifically was there were these wild pack of dogs that frequented down there. And if you've ever seen videos of like urban cities like Detroit and Cleveland and Pittsburgh and stuff, you get big packs of dogs that get big like that, six or seven of them maybe, and they protect each other and take care of each other, and they're vicious. They're not, here you go up to Fido and pet, you're going to get bit. maybe mauled and attacked. There were some unfortunate, like
Mm-hmm.
homeless people that got actually murdered by these damn dogs. They would attack anybody.
Yeah, I've
So
heard
we would go
reports on
down
that.
there. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I've definitely heard some reports on that dog attacks in in a group like that.
Yeah, and there's I've actually watched videos about like these groups of dogs that go through. They actually tranked one and put a collar on it with like cameras because they wanted to see where these pack of wild dogs frequented when no one knew where they were. So they
Mm-hmm.
this one dog had a camera around its neck after it woke up from the tranquilizer, and it showed them where these wild dogs go, what they do, and how they live with each other and take care of each other. And they will like chase people down, and you get 6 or 7 dogs. That's a horrifying scene. You're not going to win that outcome usually. So
No.
that happened down there. These dogs would be down there, and then you never know if there's like a homeless person or somebody just might go crazy on it. So my one buddy had a little 22 automatic handgun. Another buddy had a little 25 automatic handgun, which is funny. It made its way through all of our hands over the years. I took from my dad's closet out of one of his old cowboy boots. He thought he was slick hiding his 38 special in his cowboy boot. I took it down there again because I wanted protection. It was nerve wracking, and if we never had to shoot anything or pointed at anybody, but it was nice having it. It made you feel more comfortable. So there was this one building down there that we liked the most, the setup, and it was easy to get into for the most part. You had to kind of jump up on a big cement kind of slab. The stairs to this facility, you didn't have stairs getting in, which is why we liked it. So these dogs couldn't just run up on us inside of this building. It was too high. You had to jump up and roll in. And they had all these. I'd love to research it someday. They had these metal kind of old Troy kind of soldier looking shield shaped things. I don't know what they used them for. They were real heavy metal. They had hundreds, maybe more of them down there. So the building we were in had an opening on each side of it. So north, west, east, and south, you had openings. So we took, since there were so many of these metal things, we took them and we just started lining them up, and we made walls. We lifted them up, stacked them on each other the right way and as high as we could get them. They were really heavy and thick and big, and we made 4 walls out of it. And then we would have fires in there and at night. And it was all concrete, nothing was wooden or anything, so there wasn't a danger of us burning the building down. Plus, from the in the middle of the first floor, you had the ceiling goes all the way up to the fourth floor. So it was a really high ceiling, and we would have like these big bonfires, and outside, like I had mentioned earlier, there's still a steel mill working down there, and the one railroad track that goes directly in front of this building that we kind of made our home base, so to speak, it would go right, I mean, with feet in front of our building whenever it would drive, materials in and out, either be it supplies or steel going out to other companies or whatever. And we didn't want them to see us. That was another reason we built these walls, because if they saw, like, the fire burning or saw us down there, they would call like police or something. We get in big trouble. So we didn't want to draw attention, and it did for the most part hide the fires, but sometimes we had really big ones, and it would kind of be obvious. And this is one of the nights we built a big one, and we're in there just kind of messing around, like I said, what young boys do, and we start hearing dogs barking, this group of dogs, but it's really close. So we said, oh, there they go, let's go out, stand on kind of like a, I wouldn't call it a patio, but it was just, it was just a flat amount of cement, and we go out and stand on this, and we watch this pack of dogs. There was like six of them together, run past our building. They did not pay any attention to us. And in front of the building, like I said, was the railroad tracks, but just behind that were these massive mounds of what they call coke. It's like this material they use in the steel making process. Um, and it just looks like kind of like dirt and stuff. They just huge piles of it. And these dogs ran up and over just right in front of the building we were in. And immediately, within seconds of getting over the top and heading down, you hear them all start to engage in a fight, which we thought the pack of dogs themselves were fighting with each other. We couldn't see anything. We just heard dogs, fighting and an occasional yelp or whatever. But definitely, it sounded like they were all attacking one thing. And then after a couple seconds, we start hearing them yelping more and more. And we hear a louder sounds like, dog or animal or whatever on the other side. And we kind of quickly started to pick up on these dogs were not fighting with each other. They attacked something else that was on the other side of that mound of material, and we couldn't see it. So what starts happening is, to our shock, dogs start one, two, come flying over the mound. I'm not talking rolling over it. I'm talking getting like someone or something through them over from the other side, like maybe grab them by the scruff of their neck and toss them real super high and hard over this mound, and they hit the ground. Some of them had obvious injuries. Some of them were limping, running away. But after, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 seconds since this started, all of the dogs that were in this pack all ran back the way that they came, some much slower than others. Um, and we're watching, wondering what the heck just happened. And one of my buddies says, "Well, what is that over there? What is that, guys?" And we all simultaneously look over in front of our building, kind of diagonally to the right. At the top of this mound of this material I was telling you about, was sat in front of the building, climbs up this just massive, uh, almost like a huge timber wolf kind of dog, but so big that it's I say this all the time, is that it looked fake. It was so big, and it was hard to like register in your head that there's something, this is for real what you're looking at. This thing's on all fours. And one of the best descriptions I can give of it, what it looked like, was, you know, you to first of all, bigger than any bear I've ever seen. And I've seen some big black bear. We have bear in Ohio, and I've seen them. I don't hunt, but I've been in the woods throughout my whole life, and I've seen, a lot of animals. I've never seen in person like a Kodiak grizzly bear. I know they're big, but I know one thing that's bigger than them, and that's a polar bear. And
Mm-hmm.
you know how like a polar bear not only is just real massive, but from their build, comparing them to say like a Kodiak grizzly bear, their build is much different. They're leaner. Their arms and legs are longer, and they're more of like a long, straight kind of streamlined, bigger animal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're massive.
Right. And it had this look to it. It was very long, and like the rib cage was really long. And this thing was just gigantic. And again, it didn't seem real. But
Almost like
what it
right out of a
did,
movie, huh?
well, it just, we couldn't figure out what it was at the moment. You have a bunch of 14, 15-year-old guys that are just dumbfounded by what they're looking at,
Mm-hmm.
And what it did next was, some people, have laughed when they've heard it in this part of the story. Other people haven't.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't laugh. What this dog did is it basically lifted its leg and it did its business.
Oh
And
wow.
the way that it did it was so obviously, I'm marking my territory. I just took it to you guys. I handed your asses to you. Don't come back, because when it started doing its business, it was such a forceful stream that this dog was like, urinating. It was hitting this material that was on the top of those mounds, and they're like chunks and pieces getting thrown up by this dog staring at the other dogs it just laid a whooping on and peeing as if, like I said, to say, don't come back. Yeah, I could have killed you. Well, my one friend was so freaked out, he started falling backwards and he kind of fell into that makeshift wall of those things that we had built walls with, and they were made of metal. So when he fell into it, he moved it back and it made a really loud metallic on concrete kind of scrape rock. Well, immediately, we look and this thing snaps its head in our direction and is looking directly at us. And it was maybe at the most 15, 20 yards at the most from where we were. So very close. And again, touching on the sheer size of this thing, that brought it closer, being a big animal as well. So this thing is just sitting there looking at us, and the thing that stood out the most was its eyes. It had these yellow, golden, kind of amber color eyes, and you could see the pupil in there, like how your eyes basically make up different circle shapes one in of another.
Oh yeah.
Well, its pupils and the colored part, which we didn't see any color, were so big, other than this glowing kind of amber color. It was like they had a power source behind them. They were like glowing that bright, and we didn't know if maybe because this thing was so big, it was at the top of this mound again, and the light from the fire was kind of shining on it too from the inside. So we didn't know right then and there, like, is it, projecting that brightness from inside, or is it just from the fire? It was spooky as hell.
Yeah, that's
And
creepy.
what happened next was this thing growls at us.
Oh wow.
And I'll always remember this, one of the moments, until the day that I die. And when this happened, two of my buddies immediately within seconds. I'm sorry, my puppy's barking.
That's okay.
Um, so if you need to cut that out or
Oh no,
whatever,
it's fine.
okay. Could you close that space when you go? So we are sitting there, and you could see from its eyes where it's looking. So its pupils and everything are so big, you're seeing exactly where it's looking. Its gaze is looking. So when it hit me, I knew it was looking at me. When my buddy saw it, you knew everybody had looked at it. And it growled, and two of my buddies got real sick, said that they felt like they were going to pass out. Another one said he felt like he was going to throw up. I didn't feel that way. My other buddy didn't feel that way. What happened with me was my muscles in my legs, and specifically in my ankle and calves, got so weak that I felt like if I tried to take a step, I would fall. And my legs were like shaking. And you could feel when it growled at you. I've thought of this over and over many times, how I could better describe it in the future. And one of the things that stood out to me when it growled, it wasn't exactly like what I'm going to say, it what reminds me of, but it reminded us of, I've seen video of what big alligators, when they're in the water and they make that noise that shakes the water and
Mm-hmm.
ripples. Do you know that noise I'm talking
Oh
about?
yeah, they make a creepy growling, gargling type
Yeah.
sound.
So
Yeah.
they say it has the infrasound in it, which, tigers can do, and lions, and to, as predators, they can use this infrasound in their growl and stuff, and it will make their a lot of their prey, like, lightheaded, or can't see straight, or
Mm-hmm.
can't walk, or get sick. And it varies in how much it affects each individual. So this thing definitely reminded, me, and when I brought it up, how that sound was very similar to that, but it was longer notes instead of shorter ones, as the alligators are. But it reminded me so much of the growl and how we all felt it. And my one buddy turns around and runs inside, and he is gone. And he's left the other three of us standing there, and we all take suit and follow him. And we had to go up to the second floor from the first. And one of the things is, being an old, dilapidated building, there's like missing stairs. So there was three or four missing stairs going up from the first to the second floor. There was just kind of like rebar sticking out. So we had to literally hop between, where the stairs ended. And then we ran up to the third floor. There was a couple missing. Not as big a jump as from the first to the second. And we got up to the third floor, and on each floor, like I said, the middle was open. The ceiling was like pushed all the way up to the fourth floor, so you could see from the top down and from the bottom up all the way. And had big pillars at each point of the room, so four of them, that went from the bottom floor all the way up to the fourth floor. And then there was also a half wall at the center of each room going up. So you could be standing on a higher floor looking down, and you have like a concrete half wall in front of you. And we were looking straight down from the third floor at the opening of the building. And say maybe a minute has passed since we ran up there, and we were really freaking out. We have some kind of a giant thing out there that we've never seen, and I forgot something very important.
Mm-hmm.
Before we ran in, and this thing had growled and was staring at us, it did something very important. Sometimes I forget to tell this right off the bat, and this is one of the most important parts. Is this thing is sitting there on all fours, looking very muscular. From our point of view, all we see is dark black, maybe an inch long, inch and a half long, hairs on it, not overly long, not shaggy looking. This thing goes from four legs on the ground to standing on two legs. And that threw us, because, first of all, again, this thing is so giant and so big that none of us can believe what we're looking at, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, we're in a situation where we feel like we're in life or death situation with some kind of giant animal that's staring at us, just made us sick by growling at us. And what it did, it stood up on two legs, and it took two steps, and it was very natural. And this thing had not human looking legs, it had very dog looking legs. But the difference of, like, when, say, a German Shepherd stands on its hind legs to get a treat from its master, it's
Mm-hmm.
not a comfortable, I can stay up here on two legs kind of look. It's kind of a falling kind of, balancing act to stay up on two legs and get their treat, or their worship or whatever from their master.
Kind of hunched
Um,
over a bit.
right.
Okay.
This thing did not have that. It
Hmm.
stood up from four to two, like it was born to do that, or it was made to do that. Very
Wow.
natural. very fluid, and that freaked us the blank out.
Yeah.
And that's when I went from, really freaked out and ran inside. And we followed him up, and we got up to the third floor, and we were freaking out so much. But my one buddy was really freaking out, and he was screaming like audibly loud, like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do?" He's like almost in tears, and we were trying to shut him up
Mm-hmm.
because we're worried about this thing outside. We don't want to draw attention more and have it, maybe leaving, and then because he's screaming like that, it draws its attention. So we grabbed him, and I grabbed him. I'm a big guy, and I was big even then, and I grabbed him around the mouth real hard, and I actually didn't mean to do this, but so much so that I lifted him off the ground, and I was like holding his mouth, trying to, not trying to smother the guy, but just trying to make him shut up because we were freaking out.
Yeah.
We didn't want him to know where we were, but he starts to almost go out, and I let him go. I said, "Are you good? Are you good? You're going to be quiet." And just at that moment, we hadn't seen it, we hadn't heard it. Just at that moment, you hear this loud kind of thump, and then sounds like dog's claws on concrete. And right then, my heart sank because I knew from that noise that it was climbing up outside to come into this building. So we're up there, and all of a sudden we start seeing the shadow of this thing before we even get to see the thing itself. And I told you that we had always made big fires. We made a really big one that night. So by the way that the opening that it came in, and the way that the light from the fire was hitting it, it cast its shadow up on the wall right in front of us. So it looked 10 times bigger than it really was. And it was already humongous.
Yeah.
Easily the biggest thing we have ever seen. We have no idea what we're seeing. And this thing throws this shadow up on there. And I know we all went white, horrified. And then all of a sudden it comes into the light. It's back down on all fours when it comes into the building. And it walks in, and you can see immediately that this thing is black. Um, I can't say 100%, but I believe I'm right. It seemed like it had from the top of its head, maybe by the behind its neck, under the, that plate of bone at the back of the head, all the way down its back, down its tail. It seemed like it had a lighter kind of line, maybe of whitish kind of fur in there, just going down its back and tail. And it comes in, and it's super black, almost so black that it's almost like the light is being like absorbed from this thing. And I always remember it like walking in past the fire, and there was like just like these kind of weird wisps of like flame that came up from the fire. Was walking real close to it, like when you see video of what the sun looks like. It kind of has those like little cyclones that form on the sun, and you can see them. It looked like real little ones when it walked by the fire were coming up by its feet. And this thing was just, like I said, the biggest creature we had ever laid our eyes on. Doesn't look real. Comes in, and we start hearing this noise that sounds like when it rains and you're in a big building, a concrete building or something. You get those occasional really big like drops of rain or water that hit the ground, and
Mm-hmm.
they make that noise. Well, we start hearing it. Sounds like multiple ones just pouring like it's raining. And you see real quick, real easily, a flash of white. This thing's teeth are bared, and it's coming in. And I always remember, this is one of the lasting memories I always have of this thing, is it had saliva just literally just pouring out of its mouth, out of the sides of its mouth. big strings that would like break, and when they hit the ground, it made audible noise. It was like loud, and that stood out to like me and my other buddy. We talked about later that if this thing is doing that, normally even human beings, when we like see a steak and we salivate, that happens. It's like you're thinking about eating. So that's the impression we're starting to worry. This thing's looking at us, thinking it's about to have a meal, and that's why it's having all of this, just tons of saliva pouring out of its mouth, thinking I'm about to eat. And it stands up on two legs again, and it snaps its head up and it looks right up at us. So it wasn't like kind of looking around, like it knew where we were, because when it stood up on two legs, it went right from that four on all fours position to standing two and head rise, snap look at us at the top. So it knew right where we were. It looked right at us. Again, those eyes were just haunting, the way that you could see the pupil and stuff in there, like focusing and looking at each of us. And I'm starting to get the thoughts in my head that we might die, that this thing is gonna kill us. We're just a bunch of kids,
Hmm.
and we have this thing that, for all intents and purposes, look like every you know werewolf movie you've seen to date, and instead of it being fake and like somebody in a costume, this is not fake, this is real, and you're looking at it and it's reality. And it's just like it was just like everything shifted. It was like a paradigm shifted, and you were like lightheaded from it because you could not believe that what I'm looking at. And it's looking at us, and my one other buddy's starting to freak out. So now we've got two of them that are really freaking out. And it looks from looking at us over to its left, and that's where the stairs were to go up from the first to the second floor. And it dropped down back on all fours again, and the way it moved reminds me so much so of like a Black Panther, like how Black Panther almost are so stealthy, and the way they move, they're so fluid. It's almost like they're snake-like in a way, the way that they move, like they're made of like, just like they're a wisp, and they just move like a fluid creature. Well, that's what this thing moved like. It
Wow.
went from four legs to two and back down to four, like it's just as happy on four as it is on two, and the way it moved was beautiful. I remember seeing a there's a on Discovery Plus about things in the woods, and there's a story in there about a gentleman and his wife that go down, I can't remember, Florida or somewhere else, and they're looking for a place to camp, and they get kind of lost in the middle of a swamp. And he has an experience with like three dogmen that are hunting him down, or
Oh
like
wow.
stalking him. He pulls over, something hits the back trailer. He goes back to the trailer's light is like broke, like something ran into it. He hears something growling. He said that he saw one at first, and then he saw the other two, and they were like, one would move closer and another one would move closer. He had a 357 on him, but he talked about when these things stood from four to two, for him, he said it was like it wasn't comfortable doing it. Like when it heard like its joints popping and stuff like that, like it was like cracking and popping, and this thing didn't look natural up on two legs. Well, then I believe, first of all, I believe these things, there's different kinds of them out there, because I've heard so many different stories about different kinds
Yeah, I have to
and
agree with you on
variations
that.
in
Sorry
the
about
way
that.
that they look. Oh, that's okay. Please interrupt anytime.
No problem.
Um, And I just think that there's different Sasquatch out there. Like, look at human beings, like how we vary in the way we look. If from white to black to Asian to every other person on the planet, everybody looks different. And you have two species that, in my opinion, there's so much overwhelming, evidence for Sasquatch, and I think the Patterson Gimlin film is proof plus that that's for real. And I've seen some other ones that look, there's no way that they're fake. It looks really real. So I believe in that because of my experience
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm looking at. And it was just crazy to see this thing moving around, but it just moved so incredible, and it could get to us in a heartbeat if it wanted. And like I said, it was up on two legs, it dropped back down on four, and it hit the stairs, and it jumped over that space that there was like four stairs missing, like it was an inch. It just jumped right over it, no problem. And our hearts are just, and mine is in my throat at this point. I'm starting to panic. It's heading up to the second flight of stairs, which will bring it up to the third floor. And where it would come up at the top of the stairs would be right where we were standing. So it was about to be up on us in a second. I'm starting to think which one of us is going to kill us first. We're going to watch it kill each one of us until there's one left. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm really going to die. I can't believe this is happening to us. And two of my buddies start to run outside, and what was outside was a fire escape. But the only thing that's wrong with that is there was fire escape outside on the building that would bring you up to the third and well, actually fourth floor of the roof. And you couldn't get down though, so it's not like we ran outside and we just could have ran down to the second and first floor ones and jumped off. Those had rusted away, broken away, were on the ground in a big heap, so there was no way down. So we were stuck regardless. But two of my buddies started to head for those stairs to go up to the roof because this thing's about to be up where we are in a split second. And as it's starting to climb the second flight of stairs, what we start hearing is one of the, I always say this the same way because it's true. One of the most beautiful sounds I'd ever heard at that moment was a train. And a train was coming on that railroad line that I told you about that would go right in front of this building that we picked as like our home base. And it is coming by, and as soon as it gets in front of the building, it lays on the horn. So immediately, what I thought, they see the light and they're laying on the horn, and they're gonna bring it to the attention of somebody. They're laying on this as it's coming by, and it's real loud because it's feet from the opening of this. And we start feeling like, thank God, please. We start screaming, help, help, somebody help us, please. um, we're gonna die, help us. My two of my buddies are screaming, crying, literally have tears pouring down their eyes. I am almost unable to make any noise at that point. I was so horrified, still staring at this thing. And when it excuse me, when it heard the whistle go, it stopped on the stairs, it looked up at us, and then it turned around and it ran out. 2 seconds, boom, it was out of that building. So it could have got to us in a split second. It went out so easy, so fast. Like I said, the way it moved belied how big it was because no animal this size should be able to move as naturally, just like I said, like a panther, just like it's made of oil, just incredible machine that looked like it was made for nothing. If God made this thing or it's supernatural, which I think, and one of my buddies thinks it's supernatural. I've talked to other people that think they're supernatural, and then there's another part of another group of people that think that they're completely natural, like they think that Sasquatch, are just another natural, person on this planet, and that these things are like it. So I don't believe that. I think there's some kind of something else to them. Um, so this thing ran out, and we're still screaming, and the more we scream, the farther this train is getting from where we are. It's not hitting the brakes. It's not stopping. It did lay on the horn for a while, but it's out of earshot. And then we're hearing is, the axles hitting the metal of the metal wheels hitting the tracks, and then they start getting farther and farther away. And then we soon realize nobody heard us. Nobody's coming. This thing's going to come back in and it's going to kill us. And that was one of the most horrifying feelings. And I can feel like right now the hairs on my neck just stood up because I remember that feeling. And, we had this massive fire going in the middle of the room, as I've said many times. So,
Mm-hmm.
when you were around like big fires, the crackling noise of wood and how it burns and stuff. So some of it sounded like maybe this thing, it sounded like it was walking or something was coming in, or we thought it was it. And for like an hour, we were up on that third floor. We didn't move. We just stood there, just staring. Nobody talked. And after about an hour, we decided we have to start going down. And at that point, we realized also that we all had guns. So we took our guns out, we took the safeties off. Looking back, I'm extremely happy, number one, that we did not remember, because the guns that we had, even I had a 38, they had 25, 22. None of them would have hurt this thing. If it was only a physical creature like a polar bear or something like that, it would not, what we had would not kill this thing. It would just make it more angry and pissed off. It would have mauled us even more so, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we do, however, take them out, take the safeties off, and we start to make our way down to the second floor. And my one buddy, who had fallen back first, and I kind of picked off the ground, keeping quiet, he's not talking anymore. He's just mumbling and kind of like letting out, freaking out, kind of over anxiety kind of noises. And we have to go, and what are we going to do? We can't go out there. It's going to get us. It's going to kill us. And we start yelling at him, you got to come with us. We're going to leave. We have to leave. We can't stay here all night because it will come back and it will get us. So we have to get out of here. And we're panicking. And, I sound calm now telling the story. It was not calm by any means. A lot of screaming, a lot of, expletives, swearing at each other, yelling, stressed, cracking constantly. Finally, after maybe an hour, 40 minutes, we'd gone from the third floor to the first. And we're debating going outside, but then we just get this rush of just ultimate, like just fear again, that this thing, what if it's ready to come in? And us waiting is just giving it more reason to come in, and we need to get out of here. We have opportunity. So we said we have to go now. And it was a panic feeling too, getting ready to go out there, thinking, this thing could be waiting out there on the top of that mound, staring at us. Maybe that's how it knew that we were up on the third floor when it was on that mound. It might have been able to see us just run up those stairs because, you had a perfect view from out there. But it knew where we were, and going out, coming into that building, how I told you, you had to kind of jump up on a cement thing to kind of roll in to get in the building. Well, under that, it kind of was open too, and it went back a ways, and it went into the building and kind of dropped off into the basement. So that thing could have been under there, kind of hiding just a few feet, not seen, and be ready to jump on us. We couldn't. We just kept thinking of any scenario. This thing is out there, hiding, ready to get us. So we start to leave, and my one friend who is just kind of lost that he's had a nervous breakdown, won't move, is crying. We can't leave. It's going to get us. I finally grabbed him and I said, "You need to pull yourself together. We're either going to leave you, you're going to stay here by yourself." Think about that for a second. You're going to stay here by yourself because we're not staying here. We have to leave. We're going to die if we stay. We were panicking, freaking out. And we meant it. You're going to stay by yourself. So you either come with us or you're on your own. And he was screaming, "Don't leave me, don't leave me." We kept going because we knew he would eventually cave. He caved, he ran, he came with us. Took us maybe an hour always, and this was the norm, to get to the point where we were inside that big facility. An hour from my friend's house to theirs. So we had an hour walk back to my friend's house. And all we're doing is panicking. Every noise we hear, we think this thing's coming after us. It's just waiting. Every noise we hear, us, even our own feet, we kick up a stone or something, or
Mm-hmm.
walking on gravel, we're thinking our own foot sounds or this
Have you
thing
guys on
coming.
edge?
Yeah, oh, we were just paranoid beyond belief. So it felt like 5 days getting back to my buddy's house. And part of getting back to it was once you got up these kind of roads, it stopped and there was like just a big mound of like gravel and all kinds of stuff, like stones and stuff. So we would have to get down on all fours ourselves to get up this kind of huge kind of mound of like loose material that when you'd be climbing it, you'd start to lose your footing and start sliding backwards, which I've got to tell you, in a situation like that, when you think that there, first of all, you just realize werewolves are real.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing is chasing you. It could be right behind you. So as you're sliding down, you're thinking, oh my God, this thing, you're panicking, looking behind you, thinking it's waiting for you underneath you. And it happened to each of us. We'd slide down and freaking out because thinking it's going to get you. So that's happening. We finally get up. We start hearing that wild pack of dogs again, which we freaked out really bad because we thought it signaled, what if they're coming back to get this thing again and it's here? So we start running as fast as we can. We never saw the dogs again. We didn't see it again. We got back to my buddy's house, and I always remember he had a hose sitting out front. And I just grabbed the hose and I turned it on, and I just kept drinking water and pouring water on the back of my neck. And we didn't talk with each other for at least an hour, and we were just so freaked out and felt like we had really seen, our possible deaths about to happen. And we had an intervention, man. I believe it. I believe there's a higher power, and somebody was looking out for us that day because that train came right at the best time, and it really happened that way. And I feel like, man, there are people out there that look out for us, and guardian angels or God Himself or however lost, family members or angels. I believe that there are things that look out for us. I've had too many things happen to me over the years. It's not coincidence. There is something that happens.
Yeah,
And,
I agree with you on it. I think you guys were real lucky, and somebody was definitely watching out for you guys.
it was a horrifying event, and after it happened, we had talked with each other about what we saw, and we all agreed. Nobody disagreed on anything. We got maybe a little bit more detail here and there. Like we all went back years later. We did not go down there again for years. Years later, we got older, and some of us went down there, and we got to look around and got a better idea of just about how big this thing maybe was. And down on all fours, going into this building, look at these pillars at each point of the room, and how big they were. The ceiling between the bottom floor and where there was a first floor above you, the ceiling, like there was maybe like 14, 15 feet of height. So when this thing stood up on two legs, it definitely, from thinking about that, had to be about 9, 10 feet tall.
Wow.
Um, thing that was the most impressive was it had like a freaking like huge extra thick physique. It wasn't like any man's physique. It was like just taking the most perfect man's body you could ever take and making it, like the ultimate body. And that's what this thing looked like. Its legs, it had huge quads in its legs. Even though it had dog legs, it looked like it could run really fast on two legs.
Hmm.
It looked very natural the way it stood. It had long arms, very muscular chest, small waist. It was black as black could be. And it was just a nightmare. It would just look like something out of a nightmare. And it looked like it was made for one thing, and that was to be the ultimate predator. And, I've heard a lot of stories out there about possible connections with Bigfoot and Dogman, that Bigfoot is actually, in some circles, the thought is that he is a different level of werewolf lichen, and that they're both lichens, that Bigfoot is just a different form of it, and they do have a relationship. I don't know if you ever heard on the confessionals, Tara and the LBL,
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a good
which,
one.
that from the cop's perspective, is one of the most amazing stories I've
Yeah, that
ever
was a
heard on.
very, very interesting one.
Yeah, just incredible, and you believe instantly, instant credibility. You have a police officer. There's no reason a cop is going to risk his name and career by lying about something like
Hmm.
that. So you can trust their opinions on that
Well,
stuff.
I could tell you right now, Matt, yours is very intense, and you guys are lucky you made it out of that. I'm very, I was on the edge of my seat here, going, "Whoa!" And I started remembering your story on other podcasts, but it coming in it fresh again, I was like, "Whoa!" You
Yeah. I thinking about it, talking about it brings me back there. All the hairs on my body stand up. I get that kind of butterfly feeling in my chest because, so everybody's going to believe what they're going to believe. I
know.
know what I saw. There were four of us. We all agreed in what we saw. There was no doubt what we saw, and it was real. And it
Well,
didn't seem real. It seemed fake, but those things are real. The best description I could give of it is if um, you take pieces of the Hugh Jackman werewolf from the werewolf, or no, the vampire hunting movie he's in. I forget what it's called.
oh yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And when he turns into a black werewolf at the end of that, when he fights Dracula, that is the best view I can give of it that I can. But had very dog shaped legs, huge muscles everywhere. When it walked on all fours, it had in the back. I always remember this. You know how big cats walk, and the shoulder blades lift real high when they walk, and you see that happen. Well, this thing had that effect going on, but when its shoulder blades were raising, its scapula would go in the air. It had huge muscles surrounding them. So even in big cats, yes, there's muscles surrounding them, but they look so minute compared to the size of this thing. And it was as impressive on all fours as it was on two. It was so long. I would love to know how long it was. It was just incredible. We told each other's parents. We always agreed that when we would share it with our each respective parent group, that we would all be there together, so that it wasn't one of us. Or none of our parents really believed what we said we saw happen. My dad thought we saw a bear. Um, my mom thought we were crazy. Um, and the only person that gave us any inkling that not only did he believe us, but knew about it, without even voicing that he did. One of my best friends, his dad, I'm not going to say what his possession was. You can figure out for yourself. I'm sure he held a very high political position in the city of Youngstown for years, and so he was in charge of the police and other aspects of the city. And when we told him what happened, the first thing was he was really mad we were down there, and he knew that we like would go places, but his reaction was very angry. And we'd find out later that it was connected to this thing because when we told him what we saw, he got very upset. Did not say that he didn't believe us. He actually gave us the impression that he knew what we were talking about and did believe. So my friend who it was his dad, he said, them talking on and off over months, he just gave him more of the idea. He basically said to him without saying, "Yes, I know what happened. Yes, I know what this thing is. I've heard of it. I'm aware of it. We've had other things happen." And, because I remember that summer there was, like I said, there were some homeless people deaths, supposedly these wild dogs, one or two people. So you don't know if maybe this thing had gone to a person and that's what they're saying over the wild dogs or whatever. It was just he knew what we were talking about and didn't want us down there again. And he gave the impression that there had been a problem with it, and that just spoke volumes to us. And it was without him actually saying yes, I'm saying it is true. Yes, this thing exists. He didn't have to. He basically told us without saying it. That was amazing for us, and we felt better that somebody at least believed us. And years later, we've lost some of my friends. Two of them are gone, and
Oh,
unfortunately.
sorry to
But
hear that.
thank you. But time takes its toll on everybody differently. But we always talked about it, and it just is something that happened, and it was real, and these things exist, and it was just, it was just like my whole world just changed. And growing up, I remember my brother's one of his best friends. His house was haunted, and I'd gone over there and had some stuff happen there. I never went back after this one time, and it was really haunted bad. And it's weird. It's almost like you hear um, some people that notice ghosts and things, and then they have other things happen. It's almost like if you're sensitive in a way. I don't know if that's the case or if it was just dumb luck,
Well,
but
that's very possible. I think when you open your mind to things, I think a lot more could happen and you experience. I mean, I experienced some things when I was younger and I still feel like I experienced some things as now.
it's incredible. Yeah, and I agree with you, man. And I'm sure you have some great stories, and I would love to hear 'em. What exactly happened with you?
Oh, if you look back into my first introduction episode, I think that's when I talk about it. And I'm going to be on the Lost Frequency. It's a new podcast show too, and I did an interview with them and told them about my encounters. Well, experience, I should say. I possibly had a Bigfoot sighting. I can't confirm. All I saw was a black mass going through the clear cut. But, I lean towards it could be a Bigfoot or it could have been something else, but it was definitely large. It moved fluidly across the clear cut. So if you go back on it, you'll hear that and you'll hear some of my paranormal experience too that I seen
Well,
when I was a kid.
absolutely, I'm gonna check them out.
Yeah. And it's like this, that a lot more people need to open up their mind to this stuff, not everybody's making up things. And what you're telling me right now, I believe 100%. I could tell by the detail in your voice, and it's definitely been with you for a long time.
It has, and I could play it back like a a videotape over and over, and I remember everything that happened. And Through the years, I've thought of, like I said, little details here and there. The more I thought about it over the years, maybe one little thing here and there popped up that I didn't give much thought to. But now it's a little weird, and I think about some of the stuff that happened on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you hear that these things, along with Bigfoot, can cloak themselves. And when it stepped in front of the fire, at one point I told you it like took a step. I almost noticed like wisps of little like flame, but when it was like going near its foot and it was near the fire, it almost seemed like you could see through its 1 foot, like it was translucent through to the fire to the other side.
Oh
I
wow.
don't know if that happened for sure. I can't guarantee it, but I know what it looked like to me. I don't know if it was just some kind of weird reflection from the fire, but it looked almost like you could see right through it for a second, and it lifted it back up. And when it lifted it back up, it got like solid again. And it
Wow.
was really strange. And I've heard so many stories about how people think they are like the Beast of Bray Road, and there's so many interesting videos about them and about the supernatural side of this thing. And I just think that there's something else. I got the feeling, of I don't know. Some people, I've heard their stories that these things get kind of like a kick out of scaring people. But you hear a lot of stories of them getting real close to somebody and at the last minute, leaving or not doing anything. Um, but I've heard those. Excuse me, I've heard those rumors that they think that they almost like get off on scaring people. But I think that you look at the Ron Politis, missing 411.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think that people have disappeared from these things and Sasquatch both.
Yeah, if there's a
And
connection there, I really do believe there's some kind of connection there. I think there's could be something going on. I think these things are, well, Bigfoot, for example, I think they're kind of like human beings, in my opinion. I think there's some bad ones, good ones, but the Dogman, I really am not sure about. That it's been new to me, and the more I look into it, I'm like, wow, somebody is seeing. These guys are seeing something, and gals. So
it
it's interesting.
it is real. It's crazy. Like I said, first, I'll always remember just it looked fake. It was just like there's no way what we're looking at is what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it dawned on us not long after that holy crap, this thing is real.
Yeah.
And it's just I can see it in my mind's eye the same as I saw it that day. And I know what I saw, and we know what we saw, and we over and over went over it. Never did our stories change to each other or any lose any detail. We just always gained a little more detail as the years went by. So yeah, man, they're out there. I believe. I'm a believer. And that was my story.
Yeah, I believe you, and I've been a believer for a long time. I've been kind of quiet about it with some people, but now I've been opening up more to it and more interested in hearing other people's encounters and what they've been through, and experience of paranormal and UFOs, you name it. I believe they definitely seen something. Not everybody's making up things. There's too many
Uh,
people seeing things.
and like we just talked about, tearing the LBL. That police officer, he's not gonna lie about that
No,
story.
and
You
that one was
know,
pretty intense.
yeah, it
Yours
was
is pretty intense
incredible.
too, though. Wow.
It
So
was. I just can't imagine seeing multiple ones and then having a
yeah.
Bigfoot like he did, and then going into the metal sound that they talk about, that strange metal noise. And I had seen on the missing 411 what on that interview when he talks to Merkel, he tells him that he heard that metal sounding door. And on the missing 411, there's an incident of a hunter that was with his son, his best friend, and some other people went hunting one night. They were him and another older gentleman, as they weren't as active as the younger guys, kind of were helping kind of mush the deer towards the other guys so they could hunt.
Hmm.
And the one gentleman disappeared, and they never found him again.
Yeah, I've heard
And
that story too, and that
yeah,
one.
and his
that's scary.
friend, he heard what didn't make any sense. They were in the middle of the woods. He heard the same kind of scraping metal on concrete noise that the cop and Tara and the LBL saw and heard that
Mm-hmm.
scraping metal noise, and they're thinking possibly it's the noise that happens when, like, say, like a portal opens or something like that. But there's a connection with Dogman, and I don't know if they're hunting dogs in a way. They might be. That might be their role.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that story made me look at it in a different way. That I think that they do have a relationship, and that something's up with it. And these things exist, and I have seen enough supernatural stuff like you have to know that it's real and that there's a whole nother world out there, this veil out there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's incredible to have your eyes open and to know that there's more, which has led me to, as the years have gone, just to have an extreme interest, obviously, in cryptids and to really focus on researching that one. And the more I hear through the years, the more I've learned, and it gets me going hearing other people's stories that I know are real, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a horrifying experience. But thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to your encounter. I know it's definitely intense and scary, and it definitely sounds like a shock. I'm surprised you guys didn't suffer like PTSD or something like that. And
Ironic you bring that up, and I think I did mention on one of my other interviews is knowing what we, excuse me, knowing what we know about PTSD today, we absolutely had PTSD after that happened. My one buddy didn't talk for 3 days. He had to
see,
go see
okay,
a psychiatrist. He had issues for years. He had
mm-hmm,
like a little tick that he got after that because he just was it like really was groundbreaking, crazy what happened. And he just, I think his mind's eye just couldn't accept that happened,
yeah,
and he kind of snapped a little bit. Thankfully, he was all right after years, but there was like, I'm talking like 2, 3 years, like he didn't talk much. He changed after that.
mm-hmm,
We were a little more vocal about it. It excited me and scared me at the same time. I can think back, like I said, all the way back on that day, and I get that fear in my chest that, what if it would have killed us? What if it would have
mm-hmm,
started attacking us? We couldn't have done anything.
mm-hmm,
Even with the guns that we had, it would have mauled us and killed us. And somebody was looking out for us. I truly believe that. I think it wanted to get us, and I think that train scared it and spooked it. And I don't know if the guys on the train just saw the firelight or saw us in there with that thing. It's very possible. I would like to think if they did see it, then they would. I would have hoped that they would stop if they saw something. That's what makes me think they didn't see it.
mm-hmm.
That they saw the light and they laid on the horn. But it was a messed up experience, and I would love to see something else again someday, and I'm going to start actually going to places and trying to have more experiences. I'm hoping maybe because that happened to me when I was younger, that had maybe a mark on me and us, that maybe we could have an experience easier. I don't know, just a
Mm-hmm.
thought.
Yeah, not too many people know. The people that know me right now, they don't know that I've been going out as well, and I've been checking out some areas that are pretty interesting that possibly that Bigfoot's been traveling through. I've been finding some pathways and odd things down in that area, and I'm gonna continue to do some video in there, and hopefully, I'll just share it on there on my group page and see what people
Do it.
think. So
It'll be awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's awesome
real
for
quick,
doing
Matt, I
that.
wanted to ask you a question. The dog pack, the wild dogs, do you think they were responsible agitating this thing, or?
I think that they possibly, like I said, they attacked this thing stupidly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think there was any point that they attacked this thing. When you could hear them. They were definitely biting it and attacking it. It
Yeah.
sounded like mass hysteria over the hill. But
Yeah,
this
it sure
thing
sound
took,
like it pissed it off, and then it
yeah,
directed its attention to you guys. you know?
yeah, and with it lifting its leg and marking its territory, and all of a sudden, loud noise. Look over. There's four kids staring at you. So it
Yeah.
was not that we were there. It definitely wanted to do something nefarious to us. Thank God nothing bad happened. And
Yeah, I'm glad you
I
guys
think
made it out of there.
thank you. I think we nearly missed a really scary situation, and like life, you know, threatening. So yeah, I think that train came by, and whoever sent it, I mean, you're dead forever.
I'll tell you one thing, Matt, that you're very detailed, and it sounded like a very intense encounter, and it's hard to ask any questions because you pretty much answer all of them all the way through the whole,
But
segment.
good. I'm glad. It stands out to me in detail because it happened. It was for me. It was, and all four of us. It was real. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
And really, people don't want to believe it. That's a prerogative.
Well,
Um,
that's their own thing. I like I said, I open my mind to everything because people cannot be just telling, making up stories and all that. I
oh,
definitely think they've been through something by the. You could definitely tell by their voice. If they don't believe you, screw them. Or you got a lot of believers out there who will believe you.
there are some stories you hear out there that are kind of cringy sometimes that
Yeah, yeah.
it's
I think that's
not.
what directs people a different path. They're like, because there is
Yeah,
it's true. You do hear some encounters on there that you're kind of like, I'm not 100% sure about this person,
right. Yeah, some a
but
little hard to swallow, but it is what it is. I
mm-hmm.
mean,
That's
I
why you kind of
understand.
got to leave it as it is. Like, let that person tell their encounter, and if they believe you or they don't, well, that's their choice. And you let the audience decide. And it's you that tells the truth. You know what I mean? It's your encounter. You're the one going out there, putting yourself in place, and you're telling the truth.
It was a crazy one. I'm glad I could share it with everybody,
Hmm.
and I enjoyed talking with you.
I really did too. Well, we'll end it here, Matt, and stay on the line for a minute. I'll chat with you for a second. And
All
thank
righty.
you for coming on the show.
I enjoyed myself.
Well, guys, that's the show. I would like to thank Matt for coming on and telling his encounter. It was very intense and very interesting, and my very first dog encounter on my show. And I'll tell you what, man, you had me on the edge of my seat, and it's a very detailed encounter. I believe you, my friend. Anyhow, guys, I want you to head up to one of my Spotify, go to Spotify or any podcast app and rate, follow, share, and we'll get more people to come on and tell their encounter. And if you had an encounter, you can hit me up on Mountain Man, Explore the Truth. You want to go mountainmanett@gmail.com. Or you can find me on Facebook, Blake Botel, Botel, and you can private message me there. So I hope you guys continue listening and support the show. Share with a friend, family, friends, whatever. Just share it, please. And like I said, guys, there's more to come, and I really enjoyed this encounter and more to come. So until next time, guys, let's explore the truth together. Thank you.